All right, we are live for another Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate here on the Arrow Title Services page. And we go live every Thursday at 2 p.m. with local realtors and lenders, and we talk about a new topic in the real estate industry. And it's always a great topic. It's always a great discussion, and I love having this each and every Thursday. So thank you to the professionals who come on here each week. This week's topic is numbers in real estate explained. So we're going to talk about money, like Peggy got in her background. Talking about like what those dollar signs mean, what those, the cost market analysis and the title insurance and the house prices and where we get all these numbers and what they mean when they talk together. So it's going to be a great conversation. We do run this meeting in 3 parts. The 3 parts are the first part where we talk about the topic. Each person who's on here talks about their piece of it, and then we have a good discussion. And then the second portion is the top tip of the week. So everybody, because this is Thursday's top tips in real estate, there is a number 1 top tip of the week. And then the third portion is any announcements that these amazing local realtors and lenders have, because there's always great things that are always coming up in this crazy market that we're in. Because if you guys are paying attention to the market right now, it's insane. So it's always great to hear what they have coming up as well. So we'll get this Thursday party started and talk about this topic today. And we're going to switch it up a little bit. We usually start with the realtors, but this week I thought, why not start with the lenders? Because there where the money's at, right?
Yes.
So we're going to start off with Peggy. Peggy, what do you have to start off this conversation about numbers explained in real estate?
Okay, well, I have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to talk fast. So the numbers that I deal with every day, and the number 1 question that I get all the time is that how much are closing costs going to be? And I would say that 90% of my first-time homebuyers are surprised at how high the closing costs are. Not how high they are, but how much they are. It seems like my first-time homebuyers think that the down payment is going to cover everything. And so I'm constantly, working out numbers for them. And the things that I want first-time homebuyers and people coming from out of state to buy a home is to understand is that Florida is almost one of the highest closing cost states in the United States. And that is because Florida does not have any state income tax. So the way our state makes their revenue is through real estate transactions. So there is added fees when you close a real estate transaction, like the intangible taxes and the doc stamps on the mortgage and the deed. So that is part of the reason why closing costs are high. I always recommend when a borrower gets pre-approved to ask the lender that they're going with for an estimate of the fees. It takes about 15 minutes for me to go through and plug in the numbers and get an estimate of the closing cost. And then there will be no surprises once that buyer gets into contract. There's nothing worse than a first-time home buyer or another buyer getting into contract and then they're freaking out because the amount that they need for closing is higher than what they're expecting. So that's a big tip for a first-time home buyer, is to know what the closing costs are going to be ahead of time. Another hurdle that I see all the time is to get over is that when a buyer is buying a house, they are going to inherit the existing real estate taxes on that house for about 1.5 years. That can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, because if they're buying a house where there is no homestead exemption, those real estate taxes are going to be high, and they're going to have to pay that for about 1.5 years until their homestead kicks in and that bill gets connected up to their mortgage and their escrows. Those are probably the 2 most things that I get, I have surprise with my buyers, or the buyers are surprised about, is the closing cost and those real estate taxes. And that also has to factor in when I'm doing a pre-approval. I can estimate what real estate taxes are and I'm sure Eric, you're the same way, we can estimate it, but until we know that exact property address, we really don't know if it's going to be higher or lower. Also, insurance is another thing that a lot of first-time home buyers don't really comprehend, that the property that they're buying, if it has an older roof, that insurance premium is going to be higher, and those costs are going to be higher on the closing costs. So there is a huge wealth of information that comes along with calculating the closing cost. And if a buyer comes to me, I always offer that for free. I'll give them a fee worksheet. We can look at the hard black and white of the numbers and see exactly what they'll need for closing. So that is a big help ahead of time. So that is my fast and furious information about numbers when it comes to, getting a mortgage and knowing the numbers ahead of time.
Awesome. Thank you, Peggy. What a great way to start off the conversation. There is so many numbers to go over, and you definitely hit some really good points and advice for people. So that's awesome, Peggy. Thank you. All right, we're going to go to the other side of lending. Eric, what do you have to share with us and to add on to what Peggy mentioned?
Well, what other side of lending am I on? Is going
well, I didn't mean other side. I just meant, you got it.
So just to piggyback what Peggy said about the taxes, in the state of Florida, it's 55 cents per $100 is what to expect. The seller pays 70 cents per 100, but keep in mind the one time where this can get a little funky is if you're buying from a builder, new construction. You got to watch if you're buying a new construction, you got to see what that contract reads. So that's just kind of to address those taxes. She said a lot of stuff that I was going to talk about, but understanding the numbers when it comes to a loan. You're going to hear a couple terms. You're going to loan to value, we call it LTV. If you're putting down 3%, your LTV is 97%. DTI, debt to income ratios. This you're going to hear a lot from the lenders. Your debt to income is how much you make, how much you spend. On a conventional loan, we want to see the debt to income under 50%, meaning you take all your expenses, we look at your debts, we look at all your income, 50% of that can be applied to your housing. On an FHA, it's up to just about 57%. Let's talk about numbers. The only other number that we're concerned with upfront is going to be your appraisal fee. Appraisals run anywhere from $450 to $500, unless it's a very odd scenario. I've done properties in the Keys where the appraisal was more, the appraiser had to travel farther. And when you're looking at higher end properties, $3 million, $4 million properties, you can kind of look for like a $1,200 to $1,500 appraisal. But that's about what I have for the numbers for now.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Great contribution in addition to what Peggy said on not the other side of lending, but the same side of lending. And so we're going to bring it back to the realtor portion of things. And it was always great to hear from the lenders and the realtors when it comes to our discussions that we talk about here today. So we're going to start off with Katey. Katey, what do you have to add to the conversation on numbers?
Hi. Hey. So Katey Bourgeois with the Bourgeois Real Estate Group. I'm actually coming to you from my back porch today. We're having some roof leak issues as we're putting on a new roof, and the guys are here taking care of it, which is like, a little bit about what Peggy was saying. On the real estate agent side, please work with a local realtor, work with local mortgage lenders. I always say that, and it's so important because things like local taxes, local customary charges, those sorts of things when it comes to the closing table. Peggy talked about closing costs specific to the loan. There are closing costs specific to the transfer of the property, which is a negotiable instrument when you are making an offer on a property, when we're talking about the buyer side. So specifically, we touched on insurance, but there's different types of insurance that are in the process of home purchase. So on the lending side, they have, they're going to require you to have homeowners insurance that's going to be, quoted by those professionals in those arenas. Your closing costs to your loan are going to be specific to, what's happening with the loan. There is also title insurance, and Lucy, you will talk about it, I'm sure, but I wanted to kind of identify the difference between closing costs for the loan and closing costs on your actual purchase of the property potentially. So I mentioned that it was a negotiable instrument. We like to use like the gear kind of thing. There are negotiable instruments in a contract, and one of those is who will pay for title insurance. And title insurance, you can talk about it at length, but it is essentially promulgated, set by the state based on the sale price. So that's one item that maybe can be paid for by the buyer, or you can ask the seller to pay for that as part of their transfer expenses. Now, talking about more numbers and from the real estate side, real estate agent side, market prices, right? So where do these numbers come from? Where Eric mentioned appraisers, how do they get the numbers that we base the property loan value on as collateral for the mortgage? Where do they get those numbers? So as a real estate listing agent, and also as a buyer's representative as well, we do what we call a comparable market analysis. So we are taking the last 3 months of actual sales, not pending or active properties, but actual sales within the area that are very comparable to that property as best we can, apples to apples as best we can. It's usually apples and oranges, but we get as close as we can to help figure out if you're getting a good value with the purchase price that you're offering or what the seller is asking. So we want to find at least some comparable properties so that you're not making an offer, getting through the inspection and appraisal just to get to a halt where you can't get a loan on the property because the purchase price is too high for the appraisal value. So we are, like I said, using the last 3 months of nearby comparable sales, and that's going to be in a tight area real close to that subject property. And not only do we do this when we're listing a property, but like I said, Bourgeois Real Estate Group as a buyer's representative, we do that comparable market analysis, and we'll run reports so that you know that you're getting at least the market value for that property, to make sure that you're not overpaying and spending $1,500 and then getting to a stopping point or a challenge that we can't overcome because it's just not working out with the appraisal. That hasn't happened a whole lot, but we have seen where the appraisers are, a little conservative, and they're, missing the value, the contract value by about $5,000. And usually the buyer and seller can come to a compromise to make up the gap or eliminate the gap, so to speak. And that's all in strategy when you're talking with your local real estate professional and your mortgage lender to make that compromise happen, to get all the parties on board to hopefully move the contract forward. And I just want to say, to anyone that's asking their realtor about mortgage fees and mortgage processes, please talk to your mortgage lender. Peggy can probably confirm that anytime anybody has a question about lending, I send them back to the mortgage lender. You need a fee sheet? Go back. I can tell you what I know, but I'm not getting it. I'm staying in my lane. I'm not going to try and talk about title insurance. I'm not going to try and talk about, how to vest title, how to take title to a property. I'm not going to tell you which inspector to use. That's going to be your, I'm not going to tell you whether or not the roof is going to be good for 10 more years. We don't know, and we have to rely on those professionals to give us their assessment, and we have to take it at face value. If you want a second opinion, go get a second opinion. Also, one more thing, Homestead Tax Exemption. I'm glad that you brought it up. We are, for those individuals who purchased a home in 2020, that timeline is March of 2021 to make sure that you've got your Homestead Tax Exemption in place. So if you buy a home before December 30 or on or before December 31st of this year, you must go to the property appraiser's office or website or whatever, make application with Martin, St. Lucie, Palm Beach, any river, wherever you purchased your home, and make sure that you're filing for your homestead tax exemption whether or not the prior owner had that exemption or not, you're owed that if you are going to be a full-time Florida resident, which is 6 months plus a day, according to the powers that be. So I probably said a lot. So I'm happy to discuss, beyond. And I think repairs and renovations too is that number that kind of just hangs out there. And I just want to touch on that. Having roof issues myself, I bought this house 2 years ago, knowing that the roof was going to need some attention. As we're putting the new roof on, we got a little rain today, and I had a little, rain come through our drywall, unfortunately, through the ceiling. But those are not. Those are costs that can be planned for. Specifically, roof is always a big thing. Air conditioning, we've already put a new air conditioning in this house on half of the house. If you're going into a home with a septic system, that's a big ticket cost as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Sorry to take up so much time. That's so much to say. I always have so much to say.
If I can jump in to piggyback off of, this is Peggy Hornick again with East Coast Mortgage Lenders. Katey, that was awesome information. Just the wealth of information here is going to be so much great tools for a home buyer. But if I can just explain, because so many people are confused about the whole process, and the getting a buyer to closing is a dance between a lot of people. It's a dance between the title company, the mortgage lender, the realtor, the insurance agent, and all of these things have to come together and hopefully it's a waltz and it's not a crazy dance, because there's so many people involved. Lucie's waltzing over there.
Too bad Alana isn't here, because she is a professional tango dancer.
Yes, she is. I have seen her dance. She's amazing. But again, back to choosing a team of local professionals is so key to making the dance work, because we all work together and these numbers all have to come together. And before closing, it's going to be an estimate of what the closing cost and the final number is for the home buyer. But until we all can come together on that dance floor and finalize our numbers, it should happen about a week before closing, when a home buyer knows their final number. Hopefully not too more closer together, but people, it's hard for people to understand why they can't have a final number closer to the closing date. And it's because everybody has to come together and get on that dance floor and finalize the numbers.
Absolutely. And we always get a little bit more in-depth in our topic too when we talk about the discussion portion. But yeah, you bring up a really great point, Peggy. And it's just, Katey, you took the floor with great information as always. But I do want to give an opportunity to Dee and Brandon to speak. So then we'll get into the discussion portion and we'll give everybody a good portion of what we were talking about. So Dee, would you like to chime in with your portion of Real Estate Numbers Explained?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I am actually in the field today at a home inspection, so excuse my in and out of the screen. Got a lot of great information dropped. I just learned a lot of stuff as far as closing costs and real estate taxes. On the realtor side, I'm with Katey. I stay away from numbers as much as I can, except when preparing CMAs. Sellers are often, curious about how much their home is worth, how much their home is going to sell for. As a realtor, I try to provide the most accurate information possible without misleading the client. I never make promises about what your home is going to sell for, because that is a variable that none of us knows until the contract is written. Keeping those numbers are realistic with the CMA. Also looking at possible repairs on the buyer side, negotiating concessions, if any at all, on the buyer side, playing around with those numbers. There's a lot of great information that was dropped. I'm sorry, I'm kind of in and out today, but definitely a lot of information about the loan to value ratios and the real estate taxes and repairs and such. So lots of great information shared.
Thank you, Demetrice.
You're
It's always,
welcome.
that was a great addition too as well, just talking about the negotiation process, because that a lot of numbers are thrown during that whole process. So it definitely is a big part of the whole thing that we're talking about today. So Brandon, what do you have to add to the conversation in regards to numbers and real estate explained?
I don't know. I mean, everyone seems so, I'm pretty new, so I'm just kind of soaking a lot of it in, but kind of from a new agent's perspective, I think there's two things that, because I don't know as much about the numbers, I'm still learning. But what I say that, and the one thing that I heard was, and I think Lucie, you know this because we've worked on a few deals together on this, is finding those local people who are able to communicate very clearly and who you will see more than just, you know, through an email, but you'll see in person. And there's sort of like this accountability that happens when you work with local people. That's really nice and really good to have. And then I would just say, as in terms of the clients and how they goes, is setting those expectations up front and really early in the process is so important, because, you know, I remember when we first bought our house maybe 3 years ago, those expectations weren't really set. And so when we get, you know, 2 or 3 weeks in after we make the offer, we're like, oh wait, we have to come up with an extra $6,000 or $7,000, like to the point that Peggy made, like, you know, first time buyers are always surprised, and I think it's just because we've never done it before. You know, they've never done it before, and so they're like, you know,
I think you're coming out a little bit. Your voice is coming.
oh, am I? Okay.
There you go. That's better.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, that's way better.
So,
there you go. So you were saying $6,000 or $7,000 unexpected.
Yeah. So, and I just remember that happening, and we're like, oh wait, we have to come up with that much more, because we were only thinking, you know, down payment, all of that. So I think that setting expectations really early with your clients, whether you're the agent or the lender or whoever, especially if they're first time home buyers, is super important. So
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandon. I completely agree, and I think everyone on the call would too. Expectations are such a big thing when it comes to the whole process. There's a lot of numbers. A lot of people get lost in the sauce, I'm going to say, because the real estate process is just, there's so much to it. And when people who aren't in our industry, we're in this industry every day, right? So we're seeing these numbers all the time. We know what these terms mean. There's so many people that see these terms and they're like, I don't know what that means. What is, like, they just don't know what the word itself means and how it relates to the process. And having those local professionals that are going to help you and guide you and tell you exactly what those fees are doing for you is so important. And just understanding what your sauce is and not getting lost in it, right? Keeping with my pun of the loss in the sauce. But I do want to, Katey brought up a good point about title cost. And as you know, Lucie McGuire Title Services. So we do handle the real estate closing, and there's so much that goes into it. There's a lot of state regulated costs that a lot of people think that they can shop title insurance itself, which you cannot. So like people like sometimes will call me like, oh yeah, I'm shopping around for title insurance and I'm doing this. And I'm like, okay, like you can shop around at different companies and you can get a feel for what they're going to offer you service wise. But I always tell people that when it comes to the numbers, really there isn't much difference in what you're going to be paying between title company to title company. Now, there can be a difference when you start to get down south or anywhere outside of our local community. For where we are in Martin County and St. Lucie County, like we are very affordable. We are competitively priced for our local market. But if you get down south, they start charging more for their closing fees. So that's like kind of, you know, one of the things that can, but it's so minuscule that it doesn't even take into account when we are talking about the grand scheme of the numbers. So that title insurance per se is going to be state regulated. It is a specific value that is accounted on the property price. So whatever the property sells for, that calculation is going to be based off of that number. No matter where you go and wherever you get title insurance, it is going to be the same no matter what. So I always tell people that it's the customer service that you're going to get at the end of the day. I think that that's one of the biggest things with any industry, any person that you're working with. It's about that communication. Like we've said time and time again, the communication that you're going to get. And I think that that holds tried and true to a title company specifically, because they are the person who's talking to the lender, talking to the realtor on both sides, and just bringing in all that information into one piece of paper. Well, not one, multiple pieces of paper for you guys to sign at the end of the day. So I think that, you know, it's just, there's so many numbers, and you guys have done an amazing job explaining some of those numbers. I think people, when they look back and they listen to this video, they're going to have a way better understanding than before. So that's what's so great about these weeks, is we talk about all these different topics, and you guys, we delve into it. And I think we really give people a better understanding, but they also see not only that better understanding, they see how much work is actually being done in the background by you guys. I think that a lot of people discredit the amount of work that is all happening in the background. They just see, oh, I like this house. Oh, I'm gonna get this house. Oh, there's, you know, and they get the house. But there's so much in the background of what we're working together with that team, local team. And I do want to open the floor to anybody, to what we want to add to this conversation of like the numbers in real estate and just in general. I know we always have some additions. Go ahead, Eric.
All right. So we just talked about, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We talked about the scary part of the numbers, the closing costs, and what your expectations should be. The fun part is also different ways that you can come up with that money. There's a couple different ways. One is gift funds. A gift fund can come. Some of it depends on the credit score. This is why you want to talk to your local mortgage expert, because if you're under a 620, there's different amounts that you can get. So definitely talk to a lender about that. The other one, and I see this debated online all the time, this is what we call seller concessions. How much a seller can contribute to the closing costs. And I'm going to look over here because this is the end all. This is what it is. On conventional loans, a seller can do up to 3% of the closing costs when the buyer's putting down less than 10%. If a buyer's putting 10 to 25% down, the seller can do up to 6%. This is on a primary and secondary house. If the buyer's putting more than 25% down, the seller can contribute up to 9% of the closing costs. If it's an investment property, the seller can do up to 2%. And if it's an FHA or a USDA loan, it can be up to 6%. Don't expect people to remember all of that, but just know that there are ways to come up with your closing costs. Gifts, seller concessions.
Love it. That's a great addition. Go ahead, Katey.
So I just would like to caution those individuals that are looking for seller concessions. Right now, unfortunately, you are going to get outbid if you ask for, potentially, depending on the situation, if you ask for up to 6% back in concessions from a seller that has multiple buyers for their property, they're going to look right past your offer and move on to someone who's asking for less. So in a situation where you are contemplating, talking about, and having a conversation about asking for seller contributions or concessions to help you with those closing costs, your realtor needs to be in direct communication with the listing agent to find out what the competitive situation looks like if there is one. So I love when sellers are able to help a buyer get into a property by providing seller concessions. We have not seen success with seller concessions right now. Just my little corner of the world, the competition that we've had in the marketplace. Sellers are getting asking price or very close to it for their properties because there are multiple buyers, multiple well-qualified buyers for every single property that's in good condition and priced right, ready to be sold. Just putting that a little bit of caution in the air, not to deflate your balloon, but we need to look at each case individually. You can't just blanket across and say, I want this house and they better give me up to 6% because I'm putting 20% down on my conventional mortgage. We need to be, you know, flexible, fast, fluid, and flexible, we say in my office. And we need to take every, we need to look at every transaction as an individual and all of those corresponding factors that come into play when you're talking about negotiating a purchase contract or negotiating repairs if need be beyond an actual agreement. So not to take, I'm sorry to kind of, you know, burst the bubble, but
No.
I think that, you know, there's a lot of buyers out there that don't know this, unfortunately, and we come up against that roadblock when it's time to make an offer on the house that they love. Then we get beat because there's another buyer who did not require 6% or 3% back for their closing costs. They were not prepared. They don't have money in the bank. So maybe they need to wait a couple of months or something like that till they have what they need in order to be competitive for a purchase.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm glad that both of you brought up what you did, because what Eric brought up and just saying what those could be as a generalized thing. So that could happen, you know, if you're watching this video a year from now, thank you. Then you know what Eric is talking about, and that might be more applicable to you. And Katey bringing up what our market is right now, that's why it is so important to speak with a local professional, because they're going to be able to guide you in those expectations. Like Brandon said earlier, having those expectations and knowing what you're moving forward, if you're going to be able to get money from seller concessions. If not, definitely not in our market right now, because it's just crazy. I mean, we've talked before, and we talked on Market Update Monday as well, about how we're at about, between the two counties, it's about 2 month supply, a little less, which is insane for this market. And if you just for knowing sake, it is 6 months supply for a balanced market. So that means there's no buyer or seller, it's equal playing fields, but the sellers are definitely have the advantage right now. So Katey, it's great that you brought up the point that right now in our market, those concessions may not be as feasible, but it's great information as well. Just that's why I love, we have such well-rounded information here. Thank you guys. Peggy, you had something to add?
Yep. Let me unmute. Peggy Hornick with East Coast Mortgage Lenders. Since we're talking numbers, I would like to touch on the mystery of credit scores, because almost every customer that comes my way has no idea what their credit score is. And let me tell you why. If you go online and you get your credit score from Credit Karma, that is a completely different scoring model than what we use for mortgage purposes. So Credit Karma gives you one credit score. And that is if you were to go out and buy or get a credit card or buy a car. It's completely different for mortgage purposes. We get 3 scores, and it's a tri-merge report, and it goes back into history a lot longer. So what we do with our 3 scores for your credit score is we throw out the low score and we throw out the high score and use the middle score. Now, a borrower's credit score means everything that to determine loan to value, determine the loan product that you can get, it determines your rate. And so everybody asks me, well, what is a good credit score? So typically anything at 720 and above is a great credit score. Actually 780 and above, 820 is about the highest credit score that you could have. But 780 and above is going to get you the top tier best pricing and best interest rate. 720 to 780 is a little bit of a drop down in pricing, but pretty much the same rate. Now, I used to be able to get loans. FHA used to go down into the 500s. Since COVID, those credit score requirements have tightened up, and pretty much 620 is a minimum for most of my loan products. And a borrower with 620 is going to suffer a little bit in interest rates. So we can absolutely, for people that are considering buying a house, I highly recommend talking to a mortgage professional and getting your credit report now, so that if there's anything that we can work on, there's so many things that I can do to help a buyer improve their scores. And it's something as minimal as just paying down a credit card balance to 30% usage, taking care of a pesky collection that's just been reporting negatively every month. And it could be something as little as $100 balance to pay off. So that is the quick and dirty of the credit score myths. And it's really important when you're wanting to get a mortgage to know what your score is.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. Credit scores are a very important part of the process. And I think that breakdown for people is going to be definitely very helpful, just knowing like where they kind of lie in that credit score. And is there, on that topic, is there something, because I know that there's the FICO score that you can get through your bank. Is that something that's a little bit more reliable for people?
That is still going to be a consumer score.
Yeah.
So you really have to get the tri-merge report, the full report for more if you're considering a mortgage. Some of them are very close, so it's a good indicator and to kind of monitor. You can get freecreditreport.com once a year. It's also good to check your credit to make sure that somebody hasn't been putting any fraudulent activity on your credit, but it could be fairly close. But if the one score that you get online happens to be your high score, and then when I pull a report, the other two are low, that could change it.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very good. Well, thank you, Peggy, for adding that. Does anyone else have anything to add to the discussion before we go to the top tip of the week? No? Yeah.
Can I say just one thing?
Yes.
I always have something to say. Katie's got the microphone, look out. So what Peggy is talking about, consumer versus, what the lenders actually use. I always tell the buyer when they ask me anything about credit, I say, please, please, please call your mortgage professional or call Peggy. And I say, she can read the credit matrix. She can read it and tell you what you need to do in order to, whether you're ready now or ready in 3 months or 6 months. A lender is going to be able to pull everything, pull that data, read the matrix, and identify what needs to be addressed, if anything, before you go and make full application for a loan or before you start shopping for a home. Just wanted to add that.
That's a great ad. Thanks, Katey. Always. Well, if you guys are tuning in just now and you guys missed the discussion we just had with these local realtors and lenders, please go rewatch the portion that we just talked about, because it was truly incredible information. It is valuable information when it comes to understanding the numbers in real estate. As you know, we always talk about a new topic each week, but you guys can always watch this replay and all of our past week's replays on our YouTube channel, Arrow Title Services. So go check that out. But always thankful for the local lenders and realtors who come on to share their big brains with us. So we are going to go to the second portion of this live, and we are going to talk about the number one top tip of the week, because this is Thursday's top tips in real estate. So we'll start off with Peggy. What's your number one top tip of the week?
Well, my number one top tip of the week is if you are considering buying a house, it's never too early to get a pre-approval, to talk to your mortgage lender and get a pre-approval. My credit reports last for about 90 days, so you can get a pre-approval now. And, I really don't update a credit. If I'm doing a pre-approval and then they don't find a house for 6 months, I'm not going to be updating the credit report every, 3 months. I'll wait until you actually get into contract. But having that information, having that pre-approval, knowing what the fees are going to be ahead of time is information that is invaluable if you're considering buying a house. So that's my top tip.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peggy. What about you, Eric? What's your number one top tip of the week?
You can't go into this market on the fence. If you're on the fence, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose the properties. You're gonna spend a lot of time. So my top tip is be ready, be prepared, and make the offer as soon as you find the property.
Love it. That's a great tip, Eric. What about you, Katey?
Katey Bourgeois with the Bourgeois Real Estate Group. It just has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? So top tip this week, I say it a lot. I'm going to continue to say it because I think it's important that you entrust a local real estate professional. And by real estate professional, I mean a local realtor, a local lender, a local inspector, anywhere that you can hire a local title company like Arrow Title Services. If you can hire someone local, they're gonna give it to you straight. They know what they're dealing with. They do it every day, ourselves included on the mortgage side and the realtor side. And I would just like to add to that trust us in the process. If you don't like the information you're getting, go ahead and get a second opinion, but stay loyal and true to the person that is looking out for you, which is the person you're hiring to help you in the real estate transaction.
Great advice. Thank you, Katey. Never can be said enough, truly, honestly. Brandon, what's your top tip of the week?
I had to think of one really quick. This is probably this is actually for everyone. We've been talking about it a little bit, but just the relationships we have with local professionals. But for me, and this is something I'm personally experiencing right now, is the relationship that the buyer's agent and the seller's agent have together is incredibly important. And even from the very beginning, so I'm actually selling my house, and the realtor on the other side, I mean, she was fantastic. I mean, before she wrote up the offer, she's asking me, who do you want to use for title? When do you want to close? She's just like, what do you want? And she's like, okay, I'll just tell you. And I wanted to work with her over any other offer. And I'm like, I hope that your offer is good because I really want to work with you, And so I would just say those relationships go a long way from the very beginning, from the moment you call, because the other offers that came in, the agent that represented that offer was just kind of rude and kind of down to my comp, and kind of it was a tactic of negotiating that I don't like. And so I think it used to work, 10 years ago, but I don't think it works anymore. So I think those relationships are really important between professionals. So especially in this market.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so great about the platform that we have here. You can see that we all, get along, and we're all trying to give out the best information possible by working together. And that's what it is. The local professionals that work together at the end of the day to make it all done. So that's it, guys. Or no, that's not it, guys. I lied. There's a third portion. We're going to go over the announcements for the week, because all of these amazing local professionals always has amazing information and things going on. If you guys haven't already, in the description of this video, by the way, you can actually reach these local professionals, real estate agents and lenders. So you can go to their Facebook pages and follow them, which is always great just to do for information purposes, because they put out great content. But I do want to give you guys the opportunity to talk about the announcements that you guys have coming up. So Peggy, do you want to start us off there? Go back around.
Well, I don't have any specific announcements, but I just want to wish everyone a blessed and amazing Thanksgiving. And I hope that everyone can spend it with their family and just truly be grateful for all of the wonderful things that we have. And I know all of us in the real estate industry and the mortgage industry have been so blessed this year. In the middle of a pandemic, we are able to stay busy and make a living. And so I just want to be so grateful about that and count our blessings, because we do have many. So that's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peggy. And maybe we'll find a way to get all the money that's behind you too.
Yeah, I have bags. I have bags of it.
Oh, you got bags. Okay. Eric, what announcement, do you have anything for us today?
So everything Peggy just said, we'll just happy Thanksgiving to everybody. From the lending side, we saw, and I'm sure Peggy will agree with me, this year we saw lending, we saw a ton of challenges, but in lending we saw challenges, especially with self-employed borrowers. Some of those guidelines are lifting, getting a little bit easier, loosening up, and jumbo loans are back pretty much. And Peggy, I can help you out if you have anybody down to 580. So FHA, I can help you out there. So you think, everybody.
Awesome. Love the teamwork. Love it. All right. Katey, what announcements do you have for us? I know you always have something to share.
Me and my mouth, right? I've always got something to say. You know what? When we're just real quick about the relationships between the agents on the negotiating table and the lenders and the title folks, if your realtor doesn't hang out with other realtors, you should ask them why not, because we have great associations, we have women's council, we have a lot of networking that happens so that when we come to the table, we can find a good compromise and solution. It is very good for all of us to come together and know each other so that we can work well together. And under the state guidance, we are not competing brokers and agents, we are cooperating brokers and agents. So in the spirit of gratitude, cooperation, happy Thanksgiving, an announcement for our office. We have 2 upcoming open houses this Sunday. We will have 2512 Egret Pond Circle open from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. That is an appointment only because we're behind the gates at Crane Creek and West Villages and Martin Downs Country Club. So 772-444-6989 to get your name at the gate so that you can come and visit us at 2512 Egret Pond Circle. That is actually under contract, but come check it out because we're looking for a backup offer. That one is $239. We talked about that on Monday. And then next Sunday, we're going to have 333 Martin Ave open for an open house from 10 to 2, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Excuse me, 10 to 1 p.m. And asking price on that is just $96,000. It's a cute little condo apartment, 1-1 in Stewart. 772-444-6989. Katey Bourgeois with the Bourgeois Real Estate Group.
Love it. Thank you, Katey. Brandon, do you have anything coming up for us to share?
Not really. I mean, all of my own house is under contract. I'm hoping I don't need backups. Hopefully that just goes through. Not really. Everything's
No
we're cruising into December. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I do want to thank all of the local professionals who come on here each week. Truly, honestly, it's amazing that you guys come on here and just share your wealth of knowledge that you guys have. And I know that the people out there that are watching really appreciate it as much as I do. So, you know, as we go into this holiday season, I just want to say that, you know, be grateful for those around you, love even more than you already love them, you know, show them that appreciation. And I do want to announce that next week for Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate, we will be off for Thanksgiving to be with those families and those that we love. But we will be back the following week. So make sure that stay tuned on the Arrow Title Services Facebook page for Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate in the coming week after that. And as well as if you guys enjoyed this Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate, we do a market update Monday, every Monday with local realtors, and they share we talk about the market a little bit more in depth on the seller side of things, and each realtor on there actually shares local listings that are up on the market right now. So you get a good idea of what's on the market. It's a great way, and it's another great conversation. So make sure you guys stay tuned. You can always watch all of the replays on our Arrow Title Services YouTube channel. And we hope you guys have an amazing Thanksgiving, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate. Have a great week, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you.